Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. For this tutorial, I am doing a cake that you're either going to love or you're going to hate. I say that because it's a very unique design. It is a sliced fondant spiral cake, and it was very heavily inspired by Yenner's Cakes, and I will leave a link to his channel in the description box. But I just love this technique, and I have some other ideas on how I want to apply this technique in different designs also. But yeah, I've been doing kind of sliced fondant here and there for a few months, but this one definitely is very similar to the one he did. He used different colors, but I used them as a reference when coming up with this design and how I was going to do it. So this is what I did. I took white fondant, tan fondant, very pale tan fondant, and black fondant, and I am rolling it as thin as I really can on this table and attaching them to each other. Actually, I take it back. That wasn't white fondant. Sorry, I did this a couple weeks ago. It's actually tan, but it looks white when you have it next to the black. So sorry about that. And I'm just attaching these with shortening. And then do a very tight roll up into a spiral. And I did 3 of those, and I set them aside to firm up a little bit so that when I slice them, they don't compress too much. So I moved on to the next step, and I'm using the silicone impression mat that I got from Temu. And I've been trying to figure out how to use it, and I figured with spooky season coming around, and with the kind of abstract, almost Halloween-ish look of the spiral, I would use this with this design. And it also has rosettes in this impression, which you will see. And I figured that mimicked the spirals in the bottom tier. And this is for the middle tier. And it's just a coincidence that I decided to do green because I thought that was a pretty fall color that would be coordinate well with the tan and the black. Forgetting that there's actually like a lizard print on this pattern as well. So that was just oops, but I guess it goes together or you hate it. You know, this is where the love or hate part comes in, but we're going with it. And I put plenty of cornstarch or corn flour into the mold before I pressed the fondant in there. And here you can see the reptile type skin and the little spiral flowers in there. To me, they look like what do you call them? Well, rosettes, like spiral rosettes. And the cool thing about those molds is that they interlock with each other so that you have a continuous pattern all the way around. And this is my middle tier. It's already ready for the fondant, and I just put a little bit of shortening on it to get the fondant to stick. You can use water. You can use a few things. You could use simple syrup. Those would be I guess, the 3 main ones. But I like to use shortening because I can move it. It's not stuck to it like water would be. You're not going to remove the fondant or the buttercream or ganache, whatever you're using, if you have to move it when you use the shortening. And here you can see I'm interlocking the pieces. Now, there's going to be a piece in the back that's not exactly the right width for or right size for that section. So I'm just going to overlap them and cut them flush with each other to get that piece together. And that will just be the back of the cake. And this cake is upside down, and I will flip it over. There we go. And then just merge the top with the sides. You can add a little water where the 2 pieces of fondant meet if you need to, because fondant does stick better with fondant with water. Shortening, eventually they will merge, but water is more of an instant glue. And now we're just going to go ahead and cut our spirals into about 1/2 inch thick sections, because we're going to roll them flat and they're going to thin out quite a bit. So we don't want to start with them too thin to begin with. And I'm just making sure that they are in a circular pattern. And we're going to just speed through the other ones. Now I'm using a sheet of acetate that I have measured the height and the circumference to make sure that it's going to wrap around the cake and be tall enough. And I put a little shortening on there to get the spirals to stick. And then I will use a second piece of acetate for the top, and I did put shortening on that also. I haven't quite done that yet. I ended up having to move these because spatially they weren't going to line up right. So you'll see me shift this all over here in a second. I wanted to do these in an alternating pattern so you didn't have rolls of, rows of the spirals. I wanted them to kind of interlock, and I didn't care if they were misshapen. I actually, at this point, for this design, didn't want them to stay in circular spheres. I wanted them, or spirals, I wanted them to kind of abstractly meld together. That's why I placed them in between each other. Plus, that fills that gap. And I also kept in mind the fact that when I roll this out, this is going to take up more space than it is when I place them on here. So it will spread to the edges. Keep that in mind. Sorry, this took me a while to figure out and get them just where I wanted. And here's that second piece of acetate that I'm putting some shortening on. Just using a pastry brush. Definitely wouldn't use water because you'd have a hard time getting the acetate off of it when you're ready. And then I'm just rolling the fondant in between those two pieces. Trying to keep it in the rectangular shape. Just so that it's the right shape when you go to put it on the cake. And you can tell here is where they're starting to kind of not blend in together, but kind of lose their completely circular pattern. I was absolutely fine with that. In fact, that's what I wanted. Now, if you wanted your spirals to be thinner, if you wanted your fondant to be thinner, you could, once you have placed your sheets of fondant on top of each other before you rolled them out, you could roll them thinner all together with the with your roller. Now here I'm trying to figure out which side I like better. And in fact, I have another design in mind where I am going to do that rolling them out before I do the actual placement of them. So I know I just kind of skipped all over the place there, but yeah, so you could make your spirals thinner if you wanted to do that. And then I just placed it on, lifted it up and placed it on my ganached cake. And this cake is upside down. There is a piece of fondant on the top that I don't think I showed how I did that, but I did that the same as I did with the other tier. And just cut your excess off the bottom and then flip it over. And then you magically have your really cool sliced fondant pattern. And the top tier, since there was so much going on already, I decided the rest of it I was going to leave fairly simple. So the top tier is just black fondant. And then I attached or put bubble tea straws in between each tier. And they are measured to the height of the tier. Use a little ganache to get your next tier to stick. And I did that throughout the entire cake. The bottom one I put 5 in, I believe, or was it 4? And then this one I'm putting 3. Because my top tier is pretty small, you don't need a whole lot of straws. And my straws are pretty thick. They're wide, so I don't need as many. Now I know the top tier is almost exactly the same width as the middle tier, but that was intentional also. I'm fine with that. And then I'm just using my steamer, my clothing steamer, to remove the cornstarch from the tiers. I find that's the easiest way to do that. And then again, the decoration of it, the floral, I wanted to keep it simple. So I'm using these flowers that have a little bit of green in them with the buds. And just those draped down the side is all I wanted. And there it is, all done, guys. I hope you decide that you loved it instead of hating it. I decided when it was all done, I love it too. I had my questions as I was going, but when I was done, absolutely love it. And it's very fall-like, so I hope you liked it. And we'll catch you on the next one.